And right now, making their way into the chamber is the President's Cabinet, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, just on your screen there, shaking hands as he makes his way to his seat. Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, Doug Burgum. What are we watching for here, Katie?
Well, what I'm noticing is the noticeable chill in the air from the Democratic side. You know, there's not even it's nice here. I mean, it is complete silence when you walk down that aisle. But it's very interesting to watch. But there's Congressman Tim Burchett not wearing his Carhartt jacket for some reason. He decided to leave that at home tonight. Of course, we have Pete Hegseth. He has actually said he's very much going to welcome Doge into the Defense Department, which is something, candidly, they need. Because when you think about it, the Department of Defense has failed to pass every single audit since 2018. They need to definitely get their financial house in order, and bringing some outside folks in will do the trick there, I certainly hope.
It would be interesting to see how much Doge impacts the military, if you will. The other part of Doge that we need to be looking at as we move forward, and what the president's going to say, is the conflict of interest that on Doge and Elon Musk, and whether he's a special employee or not, or his people are there. You know, the FAA, NASA, I think the Department of Health and Human Services, Elon Musk companies have billions of dollars of contracts, and whether he's the lead or his people are in there getting access to this information, including competitive information from those who compete against him, right? Who's watching this ethics issue, this conflict of interest issue?
My God.
You can't be in the government, you can't run the government, and be a government contractor at the same time. Look for the courts.
He's
at
not
some point in time, that
in the
lawsuit is
government.
coming, because the IGs aren't there in these agencies anymore.
He's just a
Friendly IGs
consultant,
are being
right?
reappointed, and that conflict is not
Hunter
going
Biden.
away. How do the Republicans reconcile that? We'll see.
And I think what we're going to...
That's a legitimate issue, too. I don't think the Republicans want those conflicts, because it's hard to defend.
Well, I think what we're going to see in the Defense Department is an enormous cut of what Katie was talking about. Republicans and Democrats alike have left defense spending alone. Democrats come in and cut defense spending. Republicans used to come in and cut entitlement spending. But what we're looking at is the phenomenon we saw with USAID, where only 4%, 5% of the spending is going to the actual intended recipient of the spending. The dirty secret, not a little one, the dirty big secret of defense spending is very little of it goes to actually fighting wars. It goes to weapon systems and consultants. And I think this is
US
another...
companies.
Yes, U.S. companies.
Right.
Yes, I think this is another Gordian knot moment where we're going to look at it and say, do we really need to spend this much money on a hammer or even that much money on a weapon system when what we really need, we're being beaten by goat herds with fertilizer, or we're being beaten by people with off-the-shelf drones and a little bit of high explosives. We need to look at this in a new way. And another issue that we've all forgotten about, I saw Riley Gaines there. That is going to be a huge issue tonight. The idea of men in women's sports, men in women's bathrooms, men in women's locker rooms, men in women's spaces.
Yes.
That is an issue that has 90%, there's a 90% almost total consensus among the American people. And the Democrats voted as a block that's the hill that they're going to die on?
When they voted as a block, what?
Well, the bill came forward in the United States Senate to remove Title IX, extending that to gender identity. But if this issue has come right to the forefront yet again because of something that happened in the state of Maine, state close to my heart, it's where my grandparents are from. There was a young athlete who competed as a male last year, and he tied for fifth. Competed this year as a female, using the name of Katie, might I add, and won the statewide championship. This was brought to the attention by my very good friend, State Representative Laurel Libby.
That
put it out on
is
social
not
media,
right.
pointing out the obvious problems of this is punishing our young girls. And what happened? President Trump saw it. He got that interaction with Governor Mills that you saw where she told him she would see him in court. She wasn't going to back down from allowing this to happen in her state. And then the State House of Maine censured Representative Libby last week. She's no longer allowed to vote or speak in the State House. And this is an issue, but let me just go back real quick. It's tied up in Maine. You talk about those districts?
Yes.
The Maine 2nd, thank you very much, Governor Mills. We're going to flip Maine second on that. And not only can we do that, we can flip the Maine State House. It only had a 60 votes, period, across 3 key swing districts because we controlled the balance of power in the Maine State House. And the Maine legislature chooses the Secretary of State and the Attorney General. So thank you very much, Governor Mills.
Well, we'll see
flip
you
the
in
state.
court.
But Scott,
I'll see you in the ballot box and I'll meet you there.
well, to Katie's point, the most important, this issue of men in women's sports, it does seem to be something that is appealing to Democrats in terms of not being for it. It's going to go beyond, and obviously we saw that in this election. But yet it appears as though some leaders are still doubling down. Is this a miscalculation?
It's not a miscalculation. There's
It's a
legal aspect
miscalculation.
and there's a political aspect of this. I do think most Americans, based on polling, have said this is a troubling issue because I've got 3 daughters and a granddaughter. There are a lot of Democrats who support modern
And
approach
want
this.
to
But the law,
gentrify.
all the governor of Maine was doing was implementing the law and following the law. And until the courts say Title IX will not protect this protected class, each state will have to determine what they're going to do or not do, because these executive orders, they only go to whether they're going to get federal funding or not. It's not the law. The laws that protect persons of a protected class are still in place. 1983 and all the other protections of civil rights and human rights in this country are still the law of the land. So all these executive orders do say is the government isn't going to fund you if you don't follow this executive order. It's not a really powerful piece, not at all. Wait for the courts to weigh in, and they will weigh in given who's in charge of the White House right now.
Do you know how the whole transgender
It'll
issue
fall
started?
apart.
Remember, I said there's a legal part to this,
Right.
a political part.
Let's talk about the legal part. Let's talk about Title IX. Title IX was passed by Congress. Congress never once said that Title IX referred to gender identity. You know who did? An Assistant Secretary of Education in the Obama administration wrote what they call a Dear Colleague letter to schools and colleges and universities around the country and said, Dear colleague, principal,
There's
board
the
members,
truth.
from this day
Boom!
forward, we consider Title IX's sex protections, sex discrimination protections to apply to gender identity. It wasn't even an executive order. It was not. It is not the law.
I understand.
It is not the law. It is an executive agency. Somebody, when I was the acting assistant secretary of energy, I could sign my name to a document, and it made it the executive. That's all that happened, and that changed America for 15 years, 10 years.
So let me
It's
say
not.
this.
That's
The
all
law,
there is to it.
Title IX
It
is
is not the law.
Okay, it is the law because the courts have upheld.
No, it's
that
not the
interpretation of
law,
Title
you
IX.
dummy.
Title IX is written in such a broad manner that interpretation by the executive agency has been not only upheld, but the law itself is broad enough.
No, it
to
hasn't
include
been
that
upheld.
interpretation.
Maybe in
The court,
state
I don't know,
courts.
the federal court or the Supreme Court actually strikes that down. That protection remains in place. You may not like it, but it's the law.
But you're giving.
No, it's
giving
not the law,
one
you moron.
Article 3 judge who, in some cases, was just named.
It's
3
a
weeks
memo.
before the president was
Not a
inaugurated
fair criticism.
Power
They were just
over the entire nation.
well until the U.S. Supreme Court strikes it down.